Hey everyone, welcome to this episode. We are pumped to get started because admittedly, it's actually our first episode with a guest. So bear with us as we figure out how to do it. But to kind of give some context before we introduce our guests, we want to kind of talk through a little dynamic that if you're selling on Amazon, you'll be familiar with. If you're new to Amazon, you kind of need to grasp. But essentially, it's Amazon's ability to educate customers, right?
I think most people who sell on Amazon know that sponsored product advertising is really effective. And if someone's actively searching for your product, come in, do a search for it, then that's your highest conversion rate. What is more of a challenge on Amazon is if you're trying to educate a customer group. So if you're reaching out beyond people who are actually searching for your product and trying to put it in front of people who are your target demographic, but they're not actively searching for it now. And that might be because you want to find a larger audience, a new audience beyond those that are core there. And the other reason might be because your product has some degree of uniqueness and you want to educate them about that.
Exactly. So there's mechanisms within Amazon that allow you to do some education, right? Let's talk through those banner ads and videos.
Yeah, so display advertising and store ads absolutely help you do education. So you can put a banner ad and that allows you to put a headline in there and you can use that to do some information and images. But specifically, I would say it's the video ads, right? We're seeing that more and more being leaned on heavily in Amazon to be able to do that education piece to explain the product.
Exactly. So if you have a novel product, something that just requires a little bit of just explaining why this is actually quite cool and you should find out more about it. Amazon only has those two, right? Because once you're on the product listing looking at enhanced content, you're already there, right? This is why you should even just look at this and consider this in the first place.
I think it's worth pointing out that Amazon's kind of leaned into this sort of like that use of Reels. So they're trying to bring that more into their advertising, but also their reviews and their affiliates or associates program as well. So there are degrees of Amazon showing an interest in this, but it's not as effective, and particularly it's not as effective as sponsored product advertising. But in general, it's not the most effective medium in which or platform that's using that content.
Exactly. So Amazon is a massive selling machine, amazing, but it fails or it stumbles when it comes to education.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point. I think you're right. It's that conversion machine, but so it's very good at meeting demand. Yeah, so it can deliver demand to that demand, right? It meets demand, creating demand that it really struggles with.
Right. So enter the beast in the room, TikTok. This is where all the stats show. This is where all attention is going, and high degrees of attention. So we're not just talking about general attention. This is like heavily, deeply focused attention. And just in time, our man Ashley enters the room. He heads up Social Tail, the agency that specializes in TikTok and helping brands kick butt there. So Ashley, we're going to run through some questions together and hear about how TikTok can really help people. Hey, let's take a quick second to do a little side note. If you're getting value from this podcast, it would mean a lot to us if you could subscribe wherever you're listening. So let's make this our gentleman's agreement. If you're getting value, we'd love it if you could just click subscribe, potentially the bell button, and make our day. Cheers. Awesome. So welcome, Ashley. Thanks for joining us today. You're our first ever guest, and I'm pumped to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so we should kind of kick off and just generally introduce kind of TikTok overall and kind of like how it's become so important. So TikTok is mainly primarily like an entertainment platform. How has it become so powerful at generating demand for brands?
Yeah. So with that, I think the whole great thing about TikTok as a whole is it's kind of entertainment and education all together. So I kind of call it like edutainment because the fact you can obviously get people to create content, whether it's about your brand, a product, or anything particular, it can really go viral as well, which is obviously what most brands want to do. And the fact that why TikTok works and why a lot of obviously social platforms are kind of moving in the same direction is that discoverability piece. So you might not know about a brand or a product, but it could pop up on your feed. And that's where the kind of power of TikTok is kind of going, and it continue to grow as well. And I think now we're starting to see that a lot of not just brands, but also consumers are starting to use it as well for that, because it's not just the discoverability piece, but also the fact that you can go on TikTok and literally start to search for products, search for stuff you're needing, all that kind of stuff as well. So it's kind of working both ways. You can obviously find stuff on your feed that you're not aware of, or you can use it as like a search engine rather than like using Google or YouTube. So again, it's kind of basically facilitating that whole kind of like consumers' behavior in terms of being able to go one place to kind of find everything they need.
Awesome. And so if we can like dig into that, because obviously it's all based on the idea of like a reel. And for anyone who is a bit more archaic or just over 35 and isn't generally on TikTok, what makes like a really good engaging TikTok reel?
Yeah. So in terms of like that, I think there's a few ways of doing it. Obviously, some people obviously go down the trending kind of route. So again, obviously finding trends and jumping on them, which again is great. But the fact with trends is obviously it's here today, gone tomorrow. So again, you might get some traction from that. You might get some followers, but they might not be the actual followers and users that you kind of want in the long term. So again, that's kind of one way of doing it. The most powerful way of doing it, I would say, obviously, is storytelling. Storytelling works great on the platform. So again, if you can engage your users in terms of with the opening hook and then obviously going into that deep storytelling, that's what works well for brands right now. And I think the part where we're seeing a lot of traction now as well is the founder story. So again, if the founder from like a brand can obviously get on TikTok, I highly recommend it. And a lot of people think that it takes a lot of time, and yes, it does to a degree, but the payoff is definitely worth it, because again, you can jump on camera, just literally start to reply to comments, and obviously just like doing videos on that, or just talking about the journey in terms of how you started and kind of like building in public on TikTok. Consumers really love that, and the behind the scene kind of things as well. So again, it works really well on the platform right now. So I would say storytelling is definitely the element. Doing trends works, but again, I wouldn't highly recommend it, because again, it's not going to kind of grow, allow you to grow long term.
Really interesting. And for everyone's benefit as well, if you're on let's say you're looking at a TikTok reel, are they quite different to say a YouTube or an Instagram reel? Should you be thinking about them differently, or are they very similar? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is where a lot of people and brands go wrong right now, because they kind of think, okay, if we create like a one piece of social media content, we can post it across everything. So in terms of like, okay, they kind of think about, okay, let's post it on Instagram, let's post it on YouTube Shorts, and post it on TikTok. But you've kind of got to flip it around and kind of think, okay, if you can create it for TikTok first, then it's more likely to work across your other channels, because obviously technically it looks the same, but in terms of how the algorithm works, again, you kind of want to have TikTok as your first kind of thought in terms of how that content works, and it's more likely to work across the other platforms rather than you do it the other way around. Because again, a lot of brands sometimes think, okay, we've been creating content on Instagram for so long, and that's kind of worked for us, but what you see on Instagram is more the high quality, the kind of luxury kind of like video kind of content, whereas with TikTok, the more lo-fi kind of like just literally getting your phone and literally just recording. That's what works really well. And I think as well, because it's such still a new platform, it's still kind of in its infancy. So again, people are not blind to that kind of content. So again, if you can kind of have that in mind for TikTok and then utilize that on your other kind of platforms, then that's kind of the way forward right now.
There's a little insider hack that I think we kind of discussed, where reels tend to do better if you actually edit it and create it on the TikTok platform, right? Rather than editing it somewhere else and then publishing it in.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, you can still do like some minor like edits outside the platform, but once you obviously put it on the platform, do your captions on there and all that good stuff, because then again, it kind of sends good signals to the algorithm as well, rather than obviously actually editing it completely off the platform.
Okay, and I want to kind of talk about TikTok Shop a little bit, because obviously we're about marketplaces. So very kind of like high level, what's the like, are you able to give like a quick summary of TikTok Shop and the logic behind it?
Yeah, so again, like I talked about previously, obviously, TikTok's kind of that educational entertainment piece, and where TikTok Shop comes, it kind of brings that side of things and brings it together. So it adds to the commerce side of things. So again, you kind of have the entertaining piece mixed with social commerce. So again, you can now obviously see content on TikTok, which whether it's like, say, it's a piece of content or a live as well, which I guess we could touch on. And then you can actually purchase by actually just viewing a video, click in on the right-hand side of the screen, actually buying within the platform. It keeps everything within the TikTok ecosystem. So again, now a lot of brands start to jump on that because again, rather than previously where you would obviously post a piece of content and you have to take the user outside of the platform, TikTok thought, okay, well, if we keep them in the platform, again, it obviously makes it a lot more easier for the user. And again, right now, this is where a lot of brands are starting to reap the rewards from that because again, they can obviously create content and actually see like an actual ROI from actually creating that content as well.
That's super sick. And I think there's like two things on there that I really like. So one of them is this idea of, so on other social platforms, you pay an influencer in advance, right? So you'd pay them X amount for some content to be created. But TikTok's built into the platform a influencer program. How does that work?
Yeah, so the good thing about this, like say, obviously previously and still happening now, obviously you'd pay like an influencer to obviously go and post a piece of content, then post it, and then you would maybe not get much results from it, or you wouldn't be able to track it because again, because a little bit old school method, because again, the whole reason why people obviously relied on influencers, because obviously that content would go out to their followers. So again, you pay like an influencer who's got like 2, 3, 4 million followers, and then their followers just see that piece of content. Whereas now, and this is where the TikTok algorithm comes into play, you don't need to have a massive following. If your content is good enough, TikTok will show it to more people. So again, this is why you find creators, affiliates who have obviously got low follower counts, where it's 5,000, 10,000, but can reach millions of views on the platform because it's flipped the switch in terms of like, it's all about being able to create good content, not actually having a massive following. So that's kind of the first part of it. So with that, obviously TikTok kind of built into the platform that you can literally send a affiliate or creator, I want to call them, a product out to them, which is like a sample. They will create a piece of content. And when the user actually buys through their link, they will then obviously get a direct commission based on that. So again, it's kind of a win-win scenario for the brand. There's obviously less risk because again, they're not sending out to hundreds of influencers hoping that they post. They literally can select who they want to work with. If they do well, they can obviously give them high commissions and obviously then kind of work with them more long-term. So again, I think it's definitely moving the influencer kind of relationship and kind of a model. And I think this is where we're going to start seeing it become more of a thing, not just on obviously TikTok Shop, but also later down the line when social commerce becomes more of a bigger thing on like your Meta and obviously your Instagram as well.
I love that, social commerce. The other bit that I love about TikTok as well, which I think is cool, is Amazon's kind of like given them a clue to the model with Fulfilled by TikTok, FBT. So how does that roughly work? Is it? I imagine it's similar to Amazon's.
Yeah, it's exactly the same as Amazon. I would say they've not quite got it yet because the thing with what TikTok do, they want to try stuff, break it, and then obviously work on that. So at the moment, depending whether you're in UK or US, they've not got a lot of warehouses right now. So the issue is they're getting full quite quickly. So I think obviously going into 2025, they're obviously going to start to build out more warehouses. But the same situation, just like Amazon, you send your product to Fulfilled by TikTok, and they basically do all the logistics, send all the products out. And I feel like, again, next year, that a lot of brands are going to start to do more Fulfilled by TikTok because right now, on TikTok Shop, you have to send your product out within 2 business days. So again, I think the reason why they're doing that is obviously so again, for the customer. So again, obviously, they're going to get their product obviously sooner rather than later. And at the same time, if teams cannot fulfill that, then obviously we've got to use obviously Fulfilled by TikTok. So I think it's in everyone's best interest. Maybe not now because I think it's still obviously in its infancy in terms of like it's still not bulletproof. But I think later on down the line, a lot of brands are going to start to be using Fulfilled by TikTok for sure.
One thing so Zamir and I kind of see this happening a lot, and we talk to a lot of brands about this, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. And it's not designed to be a dig on the platform, but just really to kind of understand things better. So we often see that a trend is like created on TikTok, and we massive spike in movement, but then there is no equivalent. Like we see an uplift in Amazon sales. So basically, TikTok's creating demand on the platform that isn't leading to direct sales there. Do you know why that is? What are your thoughts? Like, why aren't people buying why isn't all demand on TikTok Shop?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's still because people still need educated around TikTok and TikTok Shop, i.e. a lot of people are not even on TikTok, let alone obviously using TikTok Shop because it's still a new platform. And I guess it probably was similar when Amazon launched. People still wary in terms of how it actually works and if it's legit, because I think obviously the media and obviously kind of like pose TikTok shop terms like you're going to get counterfeits, you're going to get products not going to deliver, all that kind of stuff. So people are always going to be wary and skeptical. So I think that's obviously one element of it. But at the same time, you still see sales through TikTok shop right now, because again, that's just a thing. But the halo effect is crazy. I'll give you an example, like Golly, the supplement brand. They launched on TikTok shop maybe about August time. They literally had nothing on TikTok shop to begin with. They're now the biggest brand on TikTok shop right now. And I think they do about 10 million a month on TikTok shop right now. But the halo effect on their Amazon, if you look at their kind of the charts and everything, they've literally just blown up. Their retail's blown up. They're out of stock a lot of the time. So the halo effect is definitely there. And I think that's a good problem to have. You kind of want to use TikTok shop as kind of your awareness piece. So again, and this is where a lot of brands go wrong. They kind of think, okay, TikTok shop is a new channel. I need to get ROI straight away. Whereas if you kind of flip it and think long term and say, okay, we need to use TikTok shop, but at the same time, we don't need to worry about ROI to begin with, because we know that the LTV on the customers coming back, or again, that halo effect on our DTC, Amazon, retail, and all that good stuff that comes with that, that's where the brands are going to get the most out of it. So I think definitely from a consumer perspective, more people will start to definitely shop on TikTok shop. But again, just like anything, they will obviously see on TikTok shop, they'll go off the platform, type on Amazon, see if they can get it cheaper, or see if they can obviously get it delivered quicker. I think that's always just going to be the mentality right now. But I do see, again, going into the next 18 months or so, we'll definitely see, obviously, even more sales coming through TikTok shop. But I think that halo effect is always going to still be there.
That's so awesome. Because I mean, even like, and touching on that makes a really cool point, because Golly was already massive on Amazon. They were already kicking butt. And so the fact that their TikTok activities just made things blow up even further is really interesting. So even if you're an established brand, you can kind of amplify what you're already doing just by activating TikTok.
100%.
You kind of touched on something interesting there at the end. So mistakes that people tend to make when they launch on TikTok. So what are some of the common mistakes you tend to see?
So like touched on, I think, again, thinking it's the quick wins, because I feel like a lot of brands see, obviously, TikTok shop as kind of new, like, golden opportunity, which it definitely is. But again, understanding the logistics that go into it, because it is still the wild, wild west. And obviously, it is definitely a roller coaster in terms of, like, you're not going to launch on the platform today and literally see hundreds of thousands of sales. It just doesn't work like that. You need to build up momentum. So I kind of say, when I like speak to brands, speak to people in the kind of e-com world, treat it like SEO. SEO, you don't literally launch SEO like day one, and it's obviously then takes off. It takes time to build up. And especially with TikTok, you need to obviously build your foundation. You need to obviously send samples out to the creators. You need to start to build up content within that kind of ecosystem. So again, there's a lot of like nuances that kind of goes into that. So the sooner you know that, I think then you understand that you can be in it for the long run, because what you tend to see with brands, it's by month 4 to 6 is where you start to take off. So again, you've got to be patient. I think that's definitely one of the main things that I see a lot of brands that are doing well, being patient. The ones that don't obviously just fall off. That's probably one thing. Secondly, I think trying to treat the platform as just a one size fits all and thinking, okay, we can send some samples out and we're going to go viral and again, we're going to sell out. That is not the case. I feel like maybe 10 months ago, you could obviously do that. But again, algorithms change, the platform changes, and it's definitely becoming more of a pay-to-play kind of platform as well, where you do need to spend on ads. You might need to pay some of the bigger creators if you want them to promote your product. You need to start doing lives as well. You need to do organic. So again, you can need to do everything. And I always say to people that the more aggressive you can be on the platform, the better it's going to be. So whether that's being aggressive with your ad budget spend, being aggressive with how many samples you can send out, being aggressive in terms of like your products and your discounts you can do. If you can do that right now, again, you're the rewards, because some brands, again, this is obviously another issue where brands go wrong. They try and treat the platform like their other platforms as well. So again, I would say you've got to kind of play the TikTok game. So again, if you can do flash sales, if you can do discounts, it might not be in your brand's best practice to do that normally, but if you can do that, get the traction on TikTok, again, the long run is going to pay off as well. Because I feel like, again, right now, TikTok is definitely like a flash sale. And obviously that's kind of the go-to that people kind of like, relate it to. But again, I feel like if you get on the platform now, get sales on the dashboard, start to work with these great creators, then when it comes to like 6-7 months down the line, you won't need to do as many sales, you won't need to do as many flash sales, because you've obviously got that reputation on the actual platform.
I love that. And that's something we really see on the Amazon side as well, which is other marketplaces too. So it's kind of like, look at the big picture, like you said, and have a strategy that's specific to the platform.
Exactly.
And working through that then, we kind of came to this topic through the idea of education and Amazon not being the best way to educate. So, what would be the best way for a brand to use TikTok to educate, and how do they best make the most of the platform?
Yeah, so I think there's a few ways of doing it. I think, like I say, the fact you've got that organic side of things where you can literally just be pumping out as much content as possible. I think people forget, and this way, again, a lot of brands go wrong. They think, okay, I post this content, it doesn't get many views, it doesn't go viral, that means TikTok doesn't work. But the fact is, if you can create content that, like I say, is going to literally just educate people, not necessarily always about what your brand is and your USPs, but also about the issues in terms of in your category, in your niche as well. Because again, people are going to be searching for that. So if they search for that and find your brand, the great thing is as well with TikTok, you don't need to be following a brand or following a user to actually get their content. And again, this is where a lot of people go wrong. They feel like, okay, we're not getting people follow us, or we're not getting many views. That means that, TikTok doesn't work. But what will happen is you'll get a lot of users that will see your content, watch it, and then swipe past it. So it doesn't mean that they don't like the content or not interacting with it or following. It's just a different game to whereas like in the past on Instagram, it's all about getting followers. And obviously the more followers you get, the more visibility you get. It's completely different on the platform right now. So I would just say to people who are jumping in on TikTok, just try it, post content, and just have a cadence, whether it's doing one post a day or maybe 3 posts a day. Just be consistent with it. That's the main thing for it. And then obviously now you've got the side of TikTok Shop where you can literally, like I say, send a sample out and get more content into that ecosystem. The more kind of content you've got out there, the better. Because again, if people are searching for your brand or want to find out in terms of what your, like say, an issue within your category, whether, let's say, for example, you've got a skincare product that helps acne, for example, if you can talk about the reasons why your product can help that, and obviously other reasons what causes acne, for example, and people are searching for that and your brand comes up, then again, that's going to be the easy way to kind of get quick wins on the platform for sure.
Love that. So, Zamir, we can like pick up from something that Ashley said. There's some interesting thoughts there. How do you what do you reckon? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Hey, Ashley, thanks. Your insights are fantastic. I really enjoyed that bit where you're saying, you have to look at, even though it may look similar to like a Instagram, you need to look at different metrics. And I think whenever we talk about Amazon, it's like there are certain metrics that are different from e-commerce sites that you have to look at. So I think that's fascinating. I want to pick up on one point that you actually started around, and I think this is one that a lot of brands will consider. I think when TikTok published their 2023 results, 60% of the audience sits in that 16 to 24 bracket, 22 in that 25 to 34 bracket. But maybe what a lot of people don't realize is that the 30 to 49 bracket is the fastest growing demographic on TikTok, isn't it?
Exactly that, yeah. And you're starting to see more, because that's my kind of demographic. So in terms of that, you are seeing more people who are now jumping on the platform, and it's kind of like I always say when you was on Facebook, and then obviously your parents got on Facebook, everyone moves to Instagram, and the same's happening with TikTok now. Everyone's getting on TikTok now, so it's definitely not a younger demographic right now as well. And that's why as well, brands that have the kind of audience that is, like say, the older demographic, it works really well. Because again, just on average, when we work with brands on TikTok Shop, we see at least about 70-80% of that is new audience, new customers that they're getting from TikTok. So again, it definitely is a new unlock that you can obviously just tap into, which is great.
I think the other really interesting stat on the demographics is 55% female, right? So it is a female heavy channel.
Yeah, it's definitely heavily female. Again, don't get me wrong, if you are in a male entry kind of brand, it still can work, but definitely like female works well. Obviously, the mum population on there is really well as well. So again, that kind of category works very, very well. So anything that falls into that, then you literally should do really well on the platform for sure.
You said there, the mum category, right? So it's women 30 plus, that 30 to 49 in particular, because actually when it comes to consumer spend and household spend, they're generally the biggest spenders. So that's right. A huge opportunity.
Yeah, massive right now.
Love that. So, Zamir, offline, we had a discussion around this, and you had a prediction.
Yeah, I do.
Do you want to be bold enough to share it?
I'm always bold enough to share. Okay, fine. So let me give some context to this. Okay, so I think as we've said, sort of like Amazon's amazing conversion machine, but what it's actually quite poor at doing is creating demand. Right now, you've got TikTok, which seems to be phenomenal at creating demand, at doing the education piece. We also know that there's this deadline that's fast approaching in January for TikTok in the US. And maybe that gets extended or something in there, but there is a high likelihood that TikTok may get sold, and to a US company. And my prediction is if that happens, maybe this is more than just a prediction, Ali. This is just, I think this is the perfect, marriage here, right? Amazon buys TikTok. I mean, it just makes complete sense to me because you've got this conversion machine, you've got this demand creating machine. You bring the two of those together. I think that TikTok represents significant value to Amazon and probably more value than for any other business in the market at the moment.
Very bold. I like that. I think as well, because like say, you've seen that TikTok and Amazon are partnered up in many ways right now in terms of like Prime to buy, and obviously like say they're going to probably share they've got the warehouse facility. So again, it would make perfect sense because the fact is like people were saying obviously TikTok's going to get banned, but I think that's far from that. There's too much money in the TikTok ecosystem right now. It's created so much demand, so much jobs and everything in terms of in the economy in total. So it's definitely not going anywhere. It just depends how it will go in the next phase, whether it gets extended or whether, like say, it is bought by a US company. I think it's literally still just the beginning right now.
Just picking up on that one last point, actually, because I think it's interesting. Because the partnership, you mentioned that we haven't actually spoken about that. So Amazon, and it hasn't actually gone live as far as I know in the UK at least yet, but there is a partnership that's been announced between Amazon and TikTok. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, right. So basically right now, the great thing is you can literally, on TikTok, you can obviously buy at Amazon and vice versa. You can start to see Amazon products on TikTok as well. So again, this just opens up the door. So again, if you are an Amazon brand and not on TikTok, it's an easy segue to kind of get started on the platform. So again, I think this is just the one part of it. The fact that Amazon has seen this as a segue and not try to launch something themselves is obviously great because again, they're kind of saying, okay, rather than it being competition, that's kind of joined together, which again, it kind of works in their favor. So that's why I think it's literally just the beginning of a solid relationship with Amazon, TikTok for sure.
Love that.
Very, very excited by this.
The two platforms started dating. Cool, man.
Literally.
Marriage is on the horizon. That's my prediction.
Exactly that.
All right, Ashley. So before we go, I want to ask a little segment that we're going to try and do for our guests. Tell me the answer. What's more important to you, the chip or the dip?
Oh, definitely the dip all day long. That's a simple answer for me.
Love it.
Whoa. Hold on a second. I've got another follow-up question. Ashley, what's the dip?
Well, okay, so it's going to obviously depend in terms of that, but anything that's kind of got like a bit of spice, a bit of flavor to it, because again, I think that'll bring out the actual chip for sure. So, but if not, if you've got like the dry water-based kind of dip, then it just kills everything really, so.
Love it. Spice it up. Love it. Well, thanks, Ashley. And before we go, just for everyone listening, how can they find you?
Yeah, so our website is socialtail.co, or hit me up on LinkedIn, just Ashley Wright. They're the best place to find me.
Amazing. Love it. Thanks so much for joining us, man. And hopefully catch you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ashley. One love.